Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Maddie if you're new, and today I just wanted to kind of sit down and have a chat with you all. If you follow me on Instagram, you might know that I recently got a new job as a product designer at Lunchbox, and so yeah, I've just been asking you guys on Instagram if you had any questions. I answered some over there, but I thought that I would just kind of take a video and sit down and talk more in depth about like the transition, what my previous job was, why I got a new job, and how it's going. When you're starting a new job, there is kind of a lot thrown at you, and so I just kind of wanted to talk through some of that stuff. So anyway, this is going to be kind of like a rambly type of video, as you can probably already tell, so I apologize ahead of time, but just hang in there with me. And if you're interested in hearing the journey I've gone through the last few months in regards to my career, then that's what this video is going to be about. Okay, so first, what was I doing before Lunchbox? So if you don't know, before Lunchbox, I was working at a really small startup called Bubble. It was me, I was the only designer, and 3 other people, 2 founders and 1 engineer. And so it was a tiny, tiny team, which I really liked in some respects. We moved really, really fast and we got a lot done, and I'm honestly really proud of what we built in like the short 4 months, 4 to 5 months that I was working there. So yeah, that was Bubble, and the reason that I moved on to Lunchbox was that I basically was let go. We had a launch of the product on Product Hunt, and the founders had a certain expectation of like, you know, kind of like the results of the launch, how many people would get on the app, and sort of like stats that they really wanted to meet in order to move forward. And we did not meet those launch goals, like plain and simple. We just didn't meet them. And so I was pretty blindsided by their decision to not move forward with it, because I thought we kind of had a lot of other sort of things that we could do in terms of marketing and growth to get to that point. It was sort of like we didn't have any growth person on our team, so it made sense to me that we didn't reach our growth goals because none of us knew anything about growth for a social media app. So anyway, it was very, very strange, sort of the way that it all ended. But ultimately, after I kind of got over that, I realized it was for the best, because it just wasn't a really stable job for me. Like, I was making pretty good money, but less than I was making before at Adobe. And so it was sort of a step back in terms of how much I was getting paid. I didn't have benefits because it was an early stage startup and all of that. And so there were definitely downsides, even though there were tons of upsides. Like, I loved working with the people on my team, and I felt like what we were working on was really cool. It also had some downsides. And so I was able to use this opportunity where I didn't have a job to really kind of prioritize what I wanted in my next job. So if you're ever in that situation where you get let go, or your company sort of dissolves altogether, or you just hate your job and so you quit and you kind of have this fresh slate, then use that as a positive thing. Don't think of it as a negative. I thought of it as a negative thing at first. I sort of felt like a failure because like what I had been spending a lot of time working on, it kind of failed, and like no one's working on it anymore, and so it feels like a failure. But I was sort of able after a while to turn that around and figure out what I wanted. So what I determined that I wanted out of my next job was a more substantial design team to work on. That was number 1. Like, I wanted to work with other designers. I really missed that. And so that was one thing I was looking for. Another thing I was looking for was really good pay. So Jake and I just bought a house, and we just, we're at a time in our lives where salary is important to both of us. So I knew I didn't want to like keep taking steps back. I wanted to be taking steps forward in terms of the pay. The other thing I wanted was for it to be fully remote. I also wanted benefits, like health benefits. I wanted it to be a substantial enough company, whether it's a startup or not, where they could offer me a competitive salary and benefits and have a design team and a process already in place, because I still have so much to learn when it comes to product design and startups and how tech companies work. And so always working just for sort of like a couple people who are trying to bring an idea to life. While I had a lot of fun with that while I was doing it for Bubble and for freelance clients in the past, I sort of felt like I wanted to be on a team where we were all moving in a trajectory together over the long term. I was kind of sick of working on a project, it launches, and then I'm not really involved after that. Like, I really like the idea of staying involved on a problem and like constantly making it better and better and better, making our process better and better, and just sort of being involved long term. The last thing that I really wanted was I wanted to be able to stay at the company for a while. Like I've been doing a lot of different things in my career so far. Like I feel like every year and a half, I have like switched sort of jobs in a way. And I wanted something where I could see myself growing at that company for more than a year, hopefully even more than 2 or 3 years. I would like to be there, you know, just as long as I'm happy there. So that was sort of what I was looking for. And I applied to tons of companies, you guys. Like, I don't know. I feel like I look up to a lot of people on YouTube and Instagram, like designers who I feel like are so much like better than me and so much more experienced than me, and I think they probably have no problem finding a job. Like I used to get really sort of jealous about that, and I don't ever want you guys to feel that way about me, because I can't even tell you how many places I applied to and just either never heard back or heard back and didn't even get an interview or like a phone screen or anything like that. Like I have a long list of like rejections. And so yeah, that is really normal and it sucks, but like you just kind of have to stick with it in terms of the job search process. And I'm gonna make a whole video. I'm gonna make 2 videos actually. The first one is going to be about like actually job searching and applying, and the second one is going to be about interviewing. So anyway, stay tuned for that. But yeah, so I applied so many places, got so many no's, got a few yeses. I interviewed with I think 4 or 5 companies I did at least one interview with. And yeah, just sort of after doing a bunch of interviews, I ended up having 2 companies that were really interested and were making offers. And so Lunchbox was one of them. And I ended up choosing Lunchbox just because it kind of checked all those boxes that I talked about before, whereas the other company didn't. They were a little bit earlier on. They were a lot earlier on as a startup. And so I got a little nervous, like that it was going to be similar to Bubble, where I was going to be the only one that was a designer, and there just wasn't going to be a whole lot of process already in place, and yada yada. So anyway, Lunchbox checked so many boxes and even more. They just have like really good benefits and like really good vibes with all of the people that I would be working with. I could already tell in my interviews that they were just like really down to earth people, and people that really cared about the product and the team and all of that stuff. So anyway, I ended up accepting an offer with Lunchbox, and now I am on week 3. So another thing that I want to talk about is like transitioning jobs, or just like starting a new job in general, because the first week of my job was like kind of rough. Like I on Friday had a total nervous breakdown, to be honest. Like I just got extremely overwhelmed with like all of the new things that were changing, and I just, even though like at the time I couldn't really put my finger on what I was so freaked out about, I just finished work on Friday and I absolutely broke down, just like sobbing and just being like really kind of stressed and overwhelmed and like just shaking, hyperventilating. Like it was not fun. And that happens to me sometimes. Like I have anxiety attacks sometimes, but I was trying to figure out why that happened to me, like with this new job, because I was really excited about it. I still really liked everyone that I was talking to like within that first week, and I liked everything that I was like hearing about the company and learning about. Like there were no red flags. So like I was just so confused, like why do I feel like this? And so I'm telling you this because I feel like it's probably pretty common, especially for people who struggle with anxiety at all, which honestly I feel like is most people. But I feel like it's normal. And what I kind of chalked it up to was like, I get overwhelmed when I like don't have anything to do, like when I just feel like I'm alone with my thoughts and I don't have like anything to spend my time doing. I just like think and overthink, and just get overwhelmed with everything that I feel like I can't control. Versus like if I'm busy, then yeah, sometimes I get overwhelmed, but my brain never gets to that place of like absolute panic because I'm busy and I'm just going through the motions. So I kind of feel like what happened that first week was I was just getting all of the information, like all of the stuff I was going to be doing, all of the changes, which I'll talk about in a minute, like how this is different from jobs I've had in the past. And it was like all of that was happening, but I didn't have any work to do yet. Like I was brand new and I was just supposed to be taking it all in, asking questions and like listening and all of that stuff. Like no one was giving me work to do. And so it was like I had all of this like hyped up energy for like this new change, but I couldn't put it anywhere. So it was like stuck inside me and I just had a total sort of panic attack. And so yeah, anyway, I'm only sharing that because I feel like some of you might relate, and I just now 3 weeks in, I know that like this was the right choice for me. I really like my job so far, you know. The novelty may wear off, but I like love what I'm doing so far. And so there were no red flags. Like that sort of panic attack didn't mean that I made a bad choice or that I was like going in the wrong direction with my career. It was just a lot of change to handle. And so if that kind of thing ever happens to you, if you ever feel really, like if you just have horrible feelings inside, like yes, you should listen to your gut, but also give it some time because sometimes it just takes your body and your mind a minute to catch up. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to throw that in there because it wasn't all like sunshine and rainbows, like starting this job. Like it was hard to transition. And so I'll now talk a little bit more about that and kind of what's different, because that was one of the questions I got on Instagram was like, what was the biggest adjustment? So for me, the biggest adjustment was instead of sort of working for myself, which like at Bubble, I was not working for myself, but as a designer, I sort of was. I was deciding a lot of what I was working on when. And, you know, even before that, when I worked at Adobe, no, I wasn't working for myself, but all my projects were self-led. And before that, I was freelancing. And so I really was working for myself. Yes, I was working for clients, but I could decide sort of what to focus on when. And so this has been a big change for me because I now have like a manager and they tell me what to work on, and I'm on a pod, like a more specific team inside of the product design team. And what I work on is not up to me anymore. And so kind of finding the balance between like really making a difference and speaking my mind in terms of like what I can bring to the table and how I can sort of shift the focus of the team a little bit, you know, not all the way, because we have our, you know, Lunchbox has its goals and I'm sort of a cog in the wheel to help it all happen. But anyway, that was kind of a big adjustment, and one that I thought I was going to struggle with and has actually been a huge positive, because before I would have to sit down and sort of figure out what to work on, and that in itself is sometimes work. Like I still do it like with YouTube, and if I'm working on Skillshare classes and like Instagram posts and stuff like that, like planning when I'm going to do what is work in itself, and planning exactly what I'm going to do, like what videos I want to make, and like what order they should go in, and whatever, like what people are interested in right now, and all that, like that's work. And so I feel like this job has given me so much balance between like just showing up. Like all I have to do for this job is show up and do my absolute best. And I'm not the type of person who can show up and kind of do the bare minimum. Like I get really invested in what we're working on. And so, I feel like all I have to do is show up, do my best work, and sort of ask questions and challenge things when it's appropriate, but I don't have to like make up what work we're doing. Like the work is there to be done, and I just have to do it and be a good team member, and all of that stuff. And then outside of work, I can film these YouTube videos and have that creative outlet that's a little bit more self-led. And so, yeah, that has been a really, really good shift for me. The other thing that's been a big change for me is the times that I'm working and meetings. So before, like I said, I could decide kind of what I worked on when. Now I'm, like I have to be reliable to my team. So I am working 8 to 4. Those are my normal hours. Lunchbox is so flexible. Like I can kind of pick whatever my hours are and when I take my lunch and all of that stuff. But again, it's been really nice to just have those hours, and I know basically when my recurring meetings are, and I can schedule deep work time like throughout my days and all of that. But that has been an adjustment. Like before at Bubble, we would have one daily stand-up meeting every single day, and it was at 8:30 in the morning my time. So after like 9:30 or 10 in the morning, the rest of the day was mine to do whatever I wanted. Like, obviously to do the work for Bubble, but like there was just no structure, and I wasn't really ever pulled into other calls or meetings or things like that. And so that's been an adjustment, just kind of like actually having a lot more meetings and having to work around those meetings. So far, I haven't had a huge workload, so we'll see kind of how that goes moving forward. But it still has been an adjustment in terms of like my schedule. The other thing that I just realized that I haven't shared yet is that Lunchbox uses Figma, and I am obviously used to Adobe XD. I worked for Adobe for a year, and all my videos basically that are tutorials, I use XD. And so when I realized that they use Figma, I was like, oh boy, this is going to be a big learning curve for me. So that has been funny, just sort of navigating that and not being used to Figma at all. There's certain things that are very, very similar, but there are other things that are really different and that keep confusing me. So anyway, if you are a Figma user who used to use XD and you have any tips or just like things you want to share, feel free to leave them below in the comments. I'm not sure if I'm ever going to like turn into a huge Figma person versus XD. I guess we'll see. But like in my videos, I'm still sort of probably, I don't know, I'm still more comfortable using XD, so I don't know. That'll just be kind of a funny little experiment to see how that goes moving forward, but I'm definitely still learning when it comes to Figma, and maybe I'll do a comparison video sometime, because I feel like people might like to see that. Alright guys, that is all for today. The last thing is, down in the comments, let me know what you want me to talk about in the like job search video and the interviews video. Like I can share things personal to my experience. I can also just share general tips that I have. That's what I'm planning on doing. But if you have any specific questions, please leave them below, so that I can look at those and make sure to include them in the video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this video was interesting or helpful in some way. I just wanted to kind of let you guys in on what's been going on and share yeah, just sort of share my journey with you. That's what I want to do here on YouTube. So definitely leave any questions below and I'll be sure to answer them if I can. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.